Okay, so today we'll be printing one of our calligraphic blocks. Today's block we're printing the flower. So in order to print this block, what we would need are a few materials. Firstly, we need our paint. The paint can be acrylic or poster, acrylic paint or poster paint. And you just need one color for today's print. I think I shall go with blue today. That's my blue paint. What else you'll need? You'll need a paintbrush. This is a size 10 paintbrush. You can get a medium-sized paintbrush, no, a 8 to 12, anywhere in between. It could be round or it could be flat, right? And you need your paper. Here I have standard 8 by 11.5 size copy paper. This paper will do just fine. If you need to take out some pages from your sketchpad, that could work as well. But yes, standard size paper should be adequate. And lastly, and most importantly, you need your block. So this block is a block similar to the ones we saw created last week, the spiral and the heart shape. This one has been given time to dry, thus it is ready to be printed. We're going to be printing in one color today. So to get started, we're going to have a clean surface area to work on. We're going to have two surface areas actually. We're going to have this surface area where we're going to do our printing, and if I move you up here, we have an area where we'll be painting the block. We'll call it the painting station, and we have our printing station. So in this clean area, we're going to put down a piece of paper. I'm actually going to take this paper and stick it down to this spot because I don't want it to move. I'm not going to stick it on the corners. I'm going to stick it right here because I don't want this paper to move. Next, we're going to line up our block on this paper. And this block will be going exactly on the paper where you expect the print to go on the paper. So if I put the block over here, what I'm going to do next is take a pencil and draw a line straight around the block. And that is where my block was, and that is where it shall go every time that I'm lining up the block. I shall put it back in that square. And this paper is called your registration paper. Registration paper, and it's for registering the block. So registering the block is where you place the block on the exact space every time, so that the print on your blank paper, this paper, comes out exactly the same in the exact same space. So we have our block set up, we have it registered. What we need to know now is we need to ink, or in this case paint, our block. So we're going to the dry station away from the registration paper, and I'm going to begin painting my block. So this part of the process is a little bit fast. We want to do it a little bit fast because you don't want your paint to dry. Specifically in this case, the paint will dry rather quickly. So you want to move fast so that your paint doesn't dry on the block, right? So I'm going to open my paint. This is my blue. And I'm taking my brush and I'm holding my block. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint on to the raised areas of the block. I'm actually going to paint the entire block, but I'm going to paint the raised areas first and then paint the leaves. It's okay if you get onto the cardboard. You get paint on all little objects that you put down. Well, normally you would use a roller for this, but I think the paintbrush is a little bit easier. And with the paintbrush you can control where you want your paint to go. Paint in the center, putting paint on the leaves. Right, so I think that's good. Now I'm going to register it on my registration paper. Put my paintbrush in there. I'm going to bring it down to the registration paper where I place my block. Now is where we get the print on the other paper. So I take my blank paper, and this registration paper is the same size of this blank paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the paper on the top corners of the registration paper. I'm going to make sure the two of them line up. Once that lines up, I can simply drop my paper down onto my block. Right? What I like to do is I like to put a next piece of paper just randomly on top of that. And now I'm going to use my palm, my lower palm, just to gently press onto the block. So I'm pressing the paper onto the block, gently pressing it. I'm feeling the objects and making sure all the objects I've put down are pressed. Try not to let it press too hard on the paper, because as you can see it's pressing through. I don't want the paper to rip. I'm going to take off the second paper and see how it looks. Right, and I feel as though I've gotten everything. So now I'm going to raise off my paper. Raise it from one corner. And this is my print. Right, so let's put that aside. Let's try it one more time. So I carry my block back to my inking area, my painting area. And I paint it up one more time. I realized that I needed a little bit more paint on the leaves, so I'm going to make sure I get paint on the leaves this time. I'm going to paint fast because my paint was drying. And what we're looking for here is we're looking for prints. When you take off that that paper with your design, that's considered a print. That's called a print. So we're looking to create prints, and what we want in these prints is we want them to try to be the same. We want to try to make them look the same. Right, so I think I'm ready there again. Put my paint in there. Bring my block back down to my registration paper. Making sure it's lined up perfectly. Take my blank paper, rest it on top, line up the corners, Then drop my paper down on it. I'm gonna show you it without that second paper this time, so you'll see the design printing out. Why I put the second paper is because the second paper helps to prevent it from being pressed too hard. So if you press too hard, sometimes you could burst the paper. As you can see, it's printing out very easily already onto my paper. So I put that second paper just to take away from some of the pressure I'm putting, because you're putting pressure on it with your hand, and I don't want the paper to rip. But in this time I'm doing it, I'm trying to be very gentle. Right? And now let's erase it off. See what we've got. I think we got it a lot better this time around. So I will show you the two, how they look. That's the two over there. Let's do one more, because on this one I found that some of the paint didn't come out on one of the leaves, and this one it came out actually really good. Both of the leaves got the paint, I got the stems. So let's do one more. Remember, we're trying to get prints. These are called prints, these up here. They're called prints, and we're trying to get prints to look identical. So you wanna if you need to, you could always do another one. Right? So I'm gonna take my block, carry back to my printing area, to my inking area. Why I'm moving it away? Because I don't want paint.